Well, thank you for joining us. We'll be talking about DevOps and Atlassian today. My name is Michael McNeil. I'm the principal here at XPM, and there's a lot of content in this particular presentation, and it's really a jumping off point. We've got the opportunity to work with our clients. We can turn this into a complete full day presentation and discussion. There's a lot of content in here that we'll be rolling through quickly. But please consider this as kind of an introductory. This is not the full depth of what we have to offer in this area. This is literally just a set of talking points to start with. So XPM is a full service enterprise Atlassian solutions partner. We provide training. We have the Jira Bootcamp class, which we have had many people attend over the years. Atlassian User Academy, Confluence Bootcamp, and in our advanced portfolio class, we're also rolling out in the coming weeks an advanced Jira Service Desk class. So we have a full suite of training offerings. We also build products specifically for the enterprise. So all of our products are available in cloud or server or data center. So we have intentionally done our product development in the marketplace around supporting our hybrid customers that use both Jira software in the cloud and maybe Jira software data center. And then also those integration pieces and our applications are definitely built for a more complex environment. We also offer services in the enterprise, customized Jira configurations, Jira Service Desk, Confluence, business transformations, Agile coaching, scaled Agile implementation, overall DevOps implementations, along with support services for those that are running the Atlassian platform. So our talk today will be taking a quick look at Atlassian. Then we'll address some of the bigger challenges facing the software industry today and how DevOps addresses that problem. We will then take a look at what steps you can take to adopt DevOps, both for your team and your entire organization. And we'll talk a bit about the process we have gone through to walk our customers through the transition. We'll also be looking at a full, well-rounded example from Atlassian of how a mid-sized enterprise software company might use the Atlassian toolset. So the Atlassian mission, which is here on the screen, is very appropriate for this topic area. Unlike other companies, their focus on team positions them well to truly support DevOps and the future of software development. Atlassian has grown quite a list of customers over time. There are more than 68,000 customers innovating in every industry. I expect this number to be up substantially at Summit in a couple of weeks. So I figure the next announcement will require an update to this slide. So now let's take a look at the state of software today and some of the challenges the industry is facing. So 6 years ago, in a Wall Street Journal article, investor Mark Andreessen stated that software is eating the world. It was an iconic statement on how software was disrupting every traditional industry at the time. These days, the idea that every company is a software company is just a cliche. No matter what your industry is, you're expected to be relooking at your business based on software. Today, most software is even turned into a service. It's an always on, always up, and always available world. The current generation has grown completely accustomed to it, but the next generation absolutely expects it. So as we bring new people into the workplace, new companies come online from new entrepreneurs that are building new products and new services, they will be doing it software first. Today, there are more opportunities for software to transform everything from homes, businesses, cars, you name it. It's no longer a cliche. It's really just an expectation. So you'd probably not consider these businesses software first, but they are increasingly just that. They use software to distinguish themselves in competitive markets. New high-end electric cars are among the most sophisticated machines on the planet. They contain a lot of code, and there's even been news articles in the last couple of weeks of how Tesla especially and others are disrupting the market space related specifically to updating these cars on the fly so that new features are rolled out across automotive products in a completely different way. Ovens and coffee machines and Starbucks are updated over the internet. So when a new food product is introduced to the store, it will instantly be heated to the right temperature in every location. They're all the same. If you roll into a Starbucks in London, you have the same experience as when you roll into a Starbucks in San Francisco, for example. With software development moving so quickly and customers demanding constant improvements, it's no wonder we've also seen changes to the way software teams work. You see the greatest impact of this in version control and software development methodologies. It requires a huge change in mindset to build software in an agile way so that it's less buggy, it actually fulfills the requirements of end users, and is released ever more rapidly and no longer once a year. In the last 10 years, we've seen Agile and Git adoption skyrocket. In Agile, all roles on the development team can come together to prioritize, scope, and support each other. And with Git, branching and merging is easy. Decentralized version control are enabling teams to move faster than ever before and with higher quality. According to the 2016 State of Software report by Atlassian, 77% of teams report using Agile methodologies. Now, I do want to pause here and mention that Agile adoption and the reality of it are far different than what you often see in slides. If we talk to 100 different customers and we actually look at what they're doing, all of them will say they have teams working in an agile way, but every single one will be operating differently. So each team has taken what the creators of Agile and what the Agile proponents will put out there as almost a religion and a very specific, very regimented way of doing things. The enterprise today is using that as a box of tools, and they pull out the tools that they need and they disregard the tools that they do not. So 78% have moved to a distributed version control system like Git as well. The pattern is not just seen in small teams, but across large enterprise teams as well. I'm sure most of you are practicing these processes already in various capacities. Agile and Git are great, and they've been around for a while. The proper use of them is far less common. We rarely run into an organization that is very effectively using these tools. Instead, they're typically torturing the tools to work within their legacy processes. What we believe comes next is an opportunity for better defined processes, DevOps, to keep the enterprise moving in the right direction. Traditional development and operations teams tend to work in silos, limiting the amount of inter-team communication until software release times. Such processes don't always encourage software teams to communicate with people outside of their software bubble. And it still doesn't prevent ops teams from being disrupted at 2 a.m. to work on a problem that they have zero context for. While Agile and Git are good prerequisites to a culture for DevOps, there's a need to do a lot more building of culture that allows for cross-functional teams to maximize efficiency, collaborate, and innovate. Growing software enterprises must become more collaborative. Society and market forces have already chosen that this is the case. The only way to break down the silos, open lines of communications, and make further gains on speed and quality is through new ways of working. We're not just talking about tools here, but also best practices and a cultural shift to experiment and share information between teams. This is the catalyst for the movement we call DevOps. There are various definitions of DevOps. You might be familiar with the term, so let's define it so we have context for the rest of our discussion. DevOps is a culture where dev and operations collaborate to build a faster, more reliable release pipeline. You'll often see this manifest with changes to the software delivery pipeline and infrastructure. DevOps is underpinned by 3 principles. Gene Kim's 3 ways, made popular by the Phoenix projects. Google can find it for you if you're unfamiliar with it. The book is readily available and a good read for those of you in non-software industries. First, there's flow. Make work visible across groups, i.e. dev and ops. Limit work in progress and reduce handoffs. Reduce the urge to blindly throw work items over the fence to someone that has no context. Work as a system, not in silos. Amplify feedback. Aim for fast feedback. Catching failures before they make it downstream is imperative. Deliver quality by starting at the source. When incidents do happen, swarm across all stakeholders to resolve. Continuous experimentation. Create a culture of learning where taking risks and learning from failure is viewed as a step forward. Fear of failure needs to be removed. We have a great example with one of our former interns, a young man who was an intern here even through the latter years of high school, and then worked as a developer and trainer for us while he was finishing his CS degree and engineering degree at Vanderbilt. He now is a front-end developer at Facebook. At Facebook, he was sharing with me an experience where he pushed a commit and it went into production, and he actually broke Facebook for millions and millions and millions of users. So he has a distinguishing, experience of having taken down a very large application. In his experience, he didn't get hammered for it. He didn't get in trouble. He was able to learn from the experience and move forward. So it takes a team. DevOps is not just one person's job, it's everyone's job. We are turning individuals into a team using DevOps. Compare this to a traditional enterprise model where development and operations teams sit on opposite sides of the fence. It's a complete culture shift, a decision to be more transparent, understanding, cooperative, and actually sharing the problem. Run what you build is one result of DevOps and can be summarized in this quote here from Amazon. They're a leader in practicing DevOps for the enterprise. In a traditional scenario, dev teams engineer a solution and then hand it over to ops to deal with production issues. When things break, op teams aren't always equipped to deal with the fix, and it's a mad scramble to address the issue. When both dev and ops teams come together to run what you build, you end up sharing responsibility, having greater transparency and accountability. This is a great way to get development and operations teams together on a single vision, especially if you've noticed friction between these teams. This approach helps to improve teams' efficiency, operational quality, and results. And eventually, you end up with more satisfied customers and employees who are servicing those customers. So what you can see here is that there's a strong correlation between teams practicing DevOps and delivering value. They spend more time on R&D than working on unplanned work or rework. This information can be found in the State of DevOps report, a fantastic piece of research with insights from over 20,000 software and IT professionals with involvement from Jez Humble, Gene Kim, and Nicole Forsgren. Puppet survey for 2017 is currently underway and should be available sometime this summer. Atlassian is excited to sponsor the report again for this year. So here is also an interesting comparison. You can begin to see the acceleration that's going on from 2015 to 2016. It'll be very interesting to see what the number is for 2017. With this newfound engineering time, what does this mean for software teams? Teams can now experiment more. I prefer to look at this as more time to dig into the long wish list of features desired by users. All software that is in active deployment has a longer list of features desired by the user base. We need to give our teams time to work on them. DevOps maximizes automation of quality and testing activities. Have the breathing room to build these automated tests, usually the first thing that is dropped with a development team. When we hand over an enterprise project to an internal team, the biggest point of friction is when they want to drop the automated testing and they want to put in a change that breaks automated testing. Use automation for holding people accountable and managing these road activities and eliminating the need for extensive QA. Use your valuable staff for feedback and application improvement instead. Using the time recovered from excess rework and downtime can be used to develop new products and features or implement process improvements. It gives you a competitive edge. You will always have competitors, no matter what market you're in. And establishing yourself as a leader means that you have to continuously invest in your infrastructure. So companies like Netflix or Amazon are often mentioned when it comes to DevOps. And some of you might want to hear about how to do 100 releases per day or 50 million deployments a year, but not every one of you can or want to do that. In fact, very few companies actually want to do that. What's important to remember is that Netflix and Amazon did not get to this extreme end immediately. It took them time. A common question is, where do we begin with DevOps? What's the best way to get started? So now let's learn about some of those best practices in the next section here. We're going to talk about steps to DevOps. How do you get started? We know DevOps works for small teams and organizations, but can it work for the enterprise? The answer is yes, and here's how you get started with Atlassian. We'll also touch on some real-world examples we've seen at XPM. Atlassian is the culture and collaboration layer of DevOps. Atlassian's approach of putting teams first makes them a great partner in the process, and they provide the tools and guidance to successfully implement DevOps practices. Atlassian tools help foster a collaborative culture by offering them complete visibility from issue to source. Atlassian tools can speed up your releases by automating rote tasks and defining set processes. Atlassian can help accelerate the time to resolution with faster feedback loops and the ability to swarm around incidents. The tools help you prioritize when unplanned work arises. It should start with culture, a core ingredient for successful implementation of DevOps. Practices follow next. Once you've established a culture that is conducive to DevOps, it is essential to have methods in place that allow collaboration to thrive. And finally, having the right tools at your disposal helps speed up your releases by automating rote tasks and defining processes. In many organizations, the catalyst is the tools. If your tools don't support DevOps, it's very difficult to change the culture. After I run through these ideas, I want to discuss some real first steps we have seen teams make to get started. Let's now look closely at each of these steps. So culture is the foundation on which every successful team is built. Does your culture foster experimentation and encourage transparency? Do members of your team or organization feel comfortable approaching one another with problems? Do product incidents lead to finger pointing instead of learning? Taking steps to build a culture suitable for DevOps is important. Build a sense of shared responsibility and empathy across the teams. Be open and transparent and provide means to effectively communicate. Of course, this will go hand in hand with other changes, but without this, everything else will be harder. If you know you need to address some team dysfunction, where do you begin? One small but impactful way to initiate culture change is to run workshops that identify areas you can improve amongst your various dev and ops teams. Atlassian does this, and they have provided their playbook, a guide designed to help teams work better together. The URL is there on the screen, and it's free to download and use. The playbook consists of health monitors used to identify areas for improvement based on your team type and team plays for change in each area. Running health monitors and plays can help your teams move towards a culture ready for DevOps. Currently, the team playbook is organized based on team type. For DevOps specifically, you'll want to run plays for both the project and service teams. Let's move on to the next essential step in DevOps, but practices. Practices are very important. Once they're well defined, practices can become the opportunity for ingraining change in the organization. When existing team members can teach new staff the practices, you have truly been successful. We're a strong believer in the being able to teach mode of learning. So there's various steps in learning. You get introduced to the concept, and then you begin to understand why. And eventually you get to where you can articulate the very deep reasons why these things need to happen and help others in your team and new members move forward. It's definitely a concurrent effort, so you might want to start with a distributed version control and then Agile, followed by continuous integration. Any of these changes will help in bringing a culture shift to your dev and ops teams. First off, are you Agile? You can't be Agile without DevOps, and you can't do DevOps without Agile. That's going to be very contradictory to some people, but it is absolutely true. Effective DevOps rely on Agile, and Agile cannot truly make the change and encourage the change that's needed without DevOps. So how are your Agile processes working? DevOps processes can only be achieved once you've mastered working in a truly Agile way. We've had many experience with customers where They don't want to change. So we actually work with the dev teams to implement agile processes, but we actually build a buffer zone or a layer where the PMO and the executive team can still think of things in a traditional project model while they see the advantages of Agile implement, but allow those Agile teams to report up in a way that is conducive to being consumed by the executives, by the management team, by the PMO, without burdening the Agile team with extensive reporting requirements. We've seen this process work. Once those executive teams begin to trust the Agile process, then they allow that to scale up. But you have to help them understand that you don't have to have every requirement written down for every piece of software that you're going to implement for the next 6 months. You learn as you go. You make changes as you go, and this is how you respond to customers, because your customer needs are not going to be the same 6 months from now as they are today. So if you think there are areas you can improve, the team playbook can help. And Atlassian also has an excellent Agile microsite. If you go to atlassian.com/Agile, you can see quite a bit of information there. The link again is on the screen. So have you migrated to using a distributed version control system like Git? You can still move toward DevOps without this, but it's much harder. Git is all about quick iterations and lots of branching and merging, all things you're going to do if you want to be a lean DevOps environment. Again, Atlassian has a support site here with some great materials that have helped millions of people thus far. Definitely check it out. It's a very popular site. And again, the URL, atlassian.com/Git, is right on the screen. Lastly, but certainly not the least, is continuous integration. It's kind of a high bar to get to. In DevOps, automation and deploying is the goal. The basis of which sounds, the basis of this is a sound continuous integration pipeline. It is a common practice to write down tests during feature development. Do you do this? Do you monitor your builds? Getting your build infrastructure and process nailed down is something you need to strive for. Automation is critical to DevOps, and there are a bunch of tools out there that do automation. At some point, there are some tasks that need to be done by humans, and Jira tickets are that translation between machines and the people that do the work. Atlassian also has a continuous delivery microsite. You can see the URL here. Again, some great supporting information. That's a lot, but Agile, Git, CI/CD, and the team playbook are part of the solution, and they are great tools to use. But now let's look at the DevOps tooling side of the equation. So I want to come back to this slide. Our sister company, Oasis Digital, builds custom software for large enterprise customers. We build the software, and then we onboard the application. Our teams work in a very DevOps Agile way, and we often bring the internal team on board through the project. This bringing of the internal team on is often the catalyst for major change, and we see friction in the following areas. Internal developers often do not have the ability to install the tools necessary to build our project, much less work on it, from open source frameworks, the dev tools, etc. The process of getting them to where they can work on an Angular, React, or Node application is long, and it causes much discussion to happen with legal, ops, IT, InfoSec, and the other dev teams. We're often the first external team at our customers to architect and build a modern single-page web application for them. Our customers expect us to be that agent of change, and we often end up being just that. We also iterate and deliver software much faster than they can consume it. Often we have a new version ready before the customer can have all the meetings and create a document to give us feedback on the previous version. We deliver a rapid sequence of videos showing new features in action. The act of stretching to keep up with our teams really is what causes the most important changes in an organization. And sometimes the organization just says, "Uncle, we have to make some major shifts in the way we've built our organization before we can even consume what you are building for us." It's not a matter of us building something wrong. It's very much a matter of us building something really well and exposing how much they need to change. Their tools also need to change. Traditional tooling cannot support the level of collaboration that's needed, the deployment process needed, the work tracking needed. We help our clients shed the weight of large, complex, and cumbersome tools, and we help them open the doors to the possibilities we've described here. Typically, they cannot even deploy the app we've built for them when we first send them a version. It's not a fast process. For example, we've been working with a major international IT company for 2 years on this process. And here is what it's really looked like. So step one is a proof of concept. We actually come in, we build out an instance, we look at their existing tooling, we actually build a complete system, and we run it through its paces, get all the key decision makers in a room, and present this proof of concept to be able to get the buy-in of the organization. First, we roll it out to a single team or a single product vertical within an organization. And then finally, after working through all the iterations required to get that team working, to get the entire build process working, we'll move to step 3, which is true organizational change through standards, governance, and other policies where they can actually set up all of their development teams to be more successful, to work together, to work with operations, and to serve their customers. We've also been helping a national bank and a major manufacturing company through this same transition. The steps are slightly different, but the process is the same. The key is to have a catalyst. Change rarely happens without one. So now let's look at DevOps the Atlassian way. So this infinity cycle here is a good representation of DevOps. This is a complete life cycle. Each phase of this flows into the next. It breaks through silos, and you get key stakeholders engaged all through the process. So we've got plan, build, continuous integration, deployment, operation, and continuous feedback. And you can see the various products that are involved here. We even see a movement within our customers and within our projects. There's a new product called Bitbucket Pipelines that's available in Bitbucket Cloud that merges that build and continuous integration process. It's a very powerful tool. We see the same thing happening with Docker and Bamboo and other tools in the internal space as well, not just the cloud. So, and all of this is bounded by this real-time communication channel that HipChat provides. It's really awesome to be able to have that same chat mechanism operate for all of these various teams. Your teams can come together and they can impact problems very much in real time, as we'll see here in a moment. So let's move through an example based on a fictional development team working on a project called Teams in Space. We'll look at how they implement DevOps, including culture, process, and tool set. This is a full DevOps approach using the Atlassian tools. Because there's so much involved in DevOps, I'll be moving quickly so that we can get through it all. There are a lot of product screenshots. I'll try to make it clear where we are in the cycle and what product we're in. Again, like I mentioned earlier, Atlassian does a lot but can't do it all. I'll touch on third-party integrations as well. So the team arrives at the office, or their couch, or their chair, or the coffee shop. The PM group sits down to capture the requirement stocks in Confluence. Confluence can create any kind of document you want, but it's particularly good at capturing requirements. Product managers use pages to scope out work, involve stakeholders in decisions, and build out wireframes. When our PM team is designing a requirement, everyone has a chance to come through and comment. In this example, the product manager on the TIS project has mapped out some requirements and is ready to add them to the backlog. This is done by leveraging the integration between Jira Software and Confluence. By highlighting text in a table, you can automatically create issues from your table columns. This also links those issues in Jira to your Confluence page. The integration creates your tickets and adds them to your team backlog. When it's time to take your requirements document to the backlog, reducing the manual effort is key to smooth transitions between teams. Here we see in Confluence a click, drag, and one-click transition creates Jira software tickets for each of the items of work. This drops them into the backlog and links the issues on our requirements document. This link is bidirectional. From the Jira issue itself, you can link back to the underlying requirements to see where your issue comes from and how it relates to the bigger picture. For developers, a typical day might begin when the team sit down to view the backlog. Here you see those issues that were automatically added to the backlog in Jira software from product management. This integration goes both ways. As an example, back in Confluence, you can embed a Jira issue filter to track status of changes. Developer and operations teams can use this to see what the other's working on. But this goes back across to our PM team as well, who can easily, from their requirements page, track the status of the issues related to their requirement. Again, a simple click and drag can keep everyone notified. You don't need to track every single change, but day to day, it gives you a clear idea of what is happening. So our backlog is filled. It's time to start the work. Our developer logs into Jira and heads to the Agile board. We see a sprint is already in progress, and he's assigned an issue to himself. He's ready to get started, so it's a simple click and drag to put the issue in progress. This simple step affects a few people. Our engineer knows what they're working on today, and the rest of the team can see what's in flight and lend a hand where they can. In our example, internally at Atlassian and on our projects, we use Git for version control. We commonly follow a feature branching workflow. Even for the smallest change, we create a feature branch linked to a Jira ticket. Once the changes are made, we run builds on those feature branches while code is being reviewed. Once they are approved, those changes are merged back into the master stable branch. This is why DVCS is a crucial prerequisite to practicing DevOps. It's all about quick iterations and lots of branching and merging. All things you're going to need in a lean DevOps environment. The first step in the development of any feature is to create a branch. Another developer, Jenny, utilizes the integration between Jira Software and Bitbucket to create her branch. This pre-fills out everything we need in Bitbucket, including the repo, the branch type, and the branch naming convention the team agreed to. By initiating the branch creation from Jira, we get to take advantage of some workflow shortcuts. The repository, branch type, and name are all automatically populated from rules that are configurable by you. For example, you could create naming conventions for particular types of branches, etc. After branch creation, it's time to start writing some code. During that time, Jenny could be interacting with a number of different tools, IDEs or analytics tools like BitHound, many of which can be integrated with Bitbucket. Atlassian DevOps tools do a lot, but they can't be everything to everyone. This is why integrations with products like Splunk, New Relic, Docker, and so on all exist. In this example, we're going to skip the actual development piece and move right into pushing the code back to Bitbucket. Here you see our branch already populated with several commits. Something important to notice is the builds column. Bamboo, our continuous integration server, is also integrated with Jira and Bitbucket. As soon as our branch was created, Bamboo automatically picked it up and began running branch builds in the background. The results of these are waiting for Jenny when she visits Bitbucket. If I click on the results, I can see the details and quickly navigate to my build results in Bamboo. Once in Bamboo, I can dig deeper into the builds. So code is flowing through the pipeline. Builds are kicking off left and right. How do you manage this? One way our dev manager can see what's happening with their team is the Agile board. Many of you will already be familiar with this if you use Jira. Here you can see who is working on what the status of work for a sprint is, and more. Sometimes you want to receive important updates that are pushed to you, rather than needing to constantly pull your Agile board. Here, HipChat is key, where you can dedicate specific rooms to your teams and begin pushing information from Jira, Confluence, Bitbucket, and Bamboo is relevant to what your team needs to see. All right, let's come back to the automated pipeline. As we mentioned earlier, your developer pushes code into Bitbucket, and behind the scenes, Bamboo is automatically taking this change and starting the testing process. That build pipeline can come in a number of ways. You can build in an integration environment that is cleaned out every time and goes away once the tests are complete. Bamboo has the concept of plans, which hold a given integration or testing pipeline. From Bamboo, you're able to see when plans are being run, which commits were involved, and whether any tests are failing. Who was the responsible party for whether the tests fail? There's so much data. Sometimes it's good to have an environment where manual testing can occur, or as a staging area where you can test complex integrations with many moving parts. In Bamboo, you can automate these deployments or manually kick off a deployment to a given environment as needed. Bamboo plans can be configured to watch for new branches as well, and will be automatically set up an individual plan for each branch. Each of these can be configured as needed, but most often you leave it as the default for the repository. Notifications for broken builds is key to the health of the repository. We see teams use the swarming method for a repository where if a key branch goes red, everyone in the room is responsible for getting it back up and running. This is a key concept of mature DevOps groups, where the service or code, etc., is always in a deployable state. Anyone can come in at any time and hit deploy without breaking anything. This takes discipline. Next up, let's look at the pull request. This is all about reliability and resiliency. In your repository, you can easily see where your branch is and how far away it is from the branch you're going to merge to. From the branch itself, you can see the code that is different, and with a single click, you can create a pull request. This automatically adds the commit messages represented on the branch and allows you to add further detail if needed. Then you can suggest certain team members to check your review. They're already automatically notified that the request is ready. Back in Bitbucket, Jennifer is ready to create her pull request, a lightweight code review. This method was pioneered by open source projects and has become the standard in the enterprise. We believe pull requests are a vital part of the development workflow. Automation through test is a huge piece of DevOps, but so is collaboration. Pull requests get team members talking. They share knowledge and catch bugs that made it through your CI process. If you only pick one thing to implement out of all of this, pull requests should be it. Pull requests are an important event. They signal a feature is close to completion. To keep stakeholders in the know, you can utilize the integration between Bitbucket and Jira software, in particular workflow triggers. In this scenario, we have configured Bitbucket to notify Jira that a pull request was created for feature TIS 67. Jira will now automatically transition the issue to the next stage in the workflow in code review. I want to briefly call out the concept of workflow triggers. These are automated hooks that can sync your actions between Bitbucket and Jira and reduce the time you are manually updating each tool. For example, you can see that for this issue, on the branch in question, we're ready for a pull request. Creating the pull request automatically calls back to Jira and changes the state to reflect that a code review has been created. Now you can see the issue has been moved to the code review status. Workflow triggers and smart commits, the ability for developers to update Jira via their commit messages, are huge time savers. Workflow automation is a big win. Okay, now back to pull requests. Collaboration is in full force. Team members are commenting on changes. They can either approve the request or say that the change needs work. In Bitbucket Server, you can make sure only code that's been reviewed is merged via merge checks. As you are looking through the code, your team can highlight areas where your code is particularly well done, or areas where you might need to double click and modify your method. Owning the quality of the code is the responsibility of the team. Thus, the PR becomes the arbiter of that quality. Pull requests in Bitbucket also can bubble up the state of the CI builds for the given branch, which is key to ensuring that all known pitfalls can be avoided. Remember, because Bitbucket is integrated with Jira software and Confluence, stakeholders are keeping up to date on status. You'll be able to see linked pull requests in Jira and Jira issue status in Confluence. The TIS repository requires at least one approval, so Jenny is good to merge. She can do this directly from Bitbucket. Once the changes have been incorporated, you'll see that the current status reflected back in Jira software. Anyone who is interested can clearly see what's going on. There's complete visibility between dev and ops teams. All right, we're done with the sprint. The product manager is happy with the results and is ready to cut a release. Release processes are also quite numerous, and we could take a whole day on this subject alone. However, let's walk through a few examples of what you might do to release with confidence. In Bamboo's deployment projects, you can see your individual deployment plans. Here you can see what was released to QA, staging, and production. In each case, you can go back to the individual build that was generated and back to the specific issue in Jira which caused it. Once the release manager has done a final review, they can deploy the end product to production or staging or wherever they choose. This can be done using the Bamboo integration inside of Jira or, of course, in Bamboo itself. In our example, the team is ready to deploy, which means it's time to support our changes. Our TIS operations team works in the same Jira instance using Service Desk. They have complete visibility into the status of dev and are prepared to support new changes. Test management is quite an extensive topic as well, almost as numerous as the number of add-ons Jira has for test management suites. It's simple to find your test management suite that integrates with Jira and works best for the way your team operates. It's also worth noting that this goes for many types of third-party tools. Atlassian DevOps tools do a lot, but they can't be everything to everybody. Check out the marketplace to see the thousands of add-ons for Atlassian products. To take the level of visibility just a bit higher, there's the Release Hub. All the work included in a particular release will be rolled up into this single view. This is great for folks who have the decision power over deployments. You can click on an individual release version, and from the Release Hub, you can see what issues are in flight, what the capability is to see, and with the capability to see what warnings exist that might prevent you from releasing on time. Here we have all of the issues ready. In fact, one of our issues has already been put into production. So now we get to operation and feedback. So this is where Jira Service Desk comes in, where our customers go to ask for help and our internal teams manage and prioritize their work. The screenshot here is of Alana's open Service Desk request. Alana is the product manager and commonly uses Service Desk to get help from ops when infrastructure issues are identified. For example, say our TIS 67 bug fix wasn't a fix at all. We all know bugs happen. It's a part of life. Sometimes they even bring down the entire system. HipChat is a great place to address that. HipChat rooms are where development, ops, and whoever else can get together can solve problems. We also integrate HipChat with monitoring tools to get immediate alerts about incidents, as seen here by PagerDuty. When an incident occurs, it's important to keep end users informed. Status page can do just that. Once your incident is resolved, it's time to get development back on track. Tickets in Jira Service Desk can be directly linked to Jira software issues. Building a strong feedback loop is key for DevOps success. Constant communication, visibility, and smart tool integration are strong features of good DevOps tools. Over the past few years, teams at Atlassian have been adopting the best practices that we've talked about here today. Since adopting DevOps, Atlassian has roughly seen a 10x increase in the number of builds run per month, while keeping the size of the build engineering team about the same. Teams are also now able to deploy changes with far higher confidence and at a much greater velocity than before. Teams also have a greater sense of ownership and can move faster through software development cycles. Looking at the infinity loop, you can see Atlassian does a lot, but they don't do it all. It's important to note that Atlassian products can get you most of the way to DevOps, but you're going to need some other tools. This is why they partner with other tool providers. So no matter what you're looking to do, it's likely Atlassian tools will have an integration available for you. In the Atlassian marketplace, you can find integrations to your favorite tools and a wide variety of add-ons to customize your Atlassian tool suite. These tools perform key processes and integrate with the Atlassian tool stack to share critical information automatically. Speed through sprints by managing documents, resources, and workflows directly within HitChat or Jira or Confluence. Enable automated continuous integration for your Bitbucket projects with popular CI tools. Automatically create or append Jira tickets with metadata and context from testing and monitoring solutions. Speed code deployment to a variety of hosting options with packaging, orchestration, and deployment tools. Keep everyone up to date by exposing status information at every stage of the process and in the tools you work in every day. Resolve issues sooner and provide feedback at any stage with service and alert add-ons that send information automatically to the right people. Get the right information to the right person every time. JMF Software develops enterprise management software for the Apple platform, simplifying IT management for Mac, iPad, iPhone, and Apple TV. From National Geographic to Oxford University, more than 7,000 global customers rely on them to manage 5.5 million Apple devices. We have a 2-minute video here of their story.
Jamf develops both client and server applications to help IT administrators and IT organizations manage Apple devices.
The last couple of years, Jamf has grown exceedingly beyond anyone's expectations.
In the last year alone, we've doubled the size of the engineering team, and that presents some unique challenges and fun opportunities.
We knew we were going to have a very rapidly growing engineering staff in multiple locations, and that's where DevOps started to form.
I wanted things to be as efficient as possible so people weren't wasting their time. Because when we waste our time as a software development company, our customers are suffering because there's something we need to get to them.
Before DevOps happened at Jamf, couldn't really grow as fast as we wanted to or needed to. We mostly had everyone committing to trunk. People were stepping on each other's toes all the time, breaking other people's features.
Through the work of the DevOps team, they have made the Atlassian family of products really our go-to for knowing what's happening within the software engineering organization. When I think of the value that comes from a DevOps culture, and when I look at the Atlassian family of products, for me the big things are automating workflows, minimizing waste, but also then just transparency and how we communicate as an organization.
With the Atlassian toolset, we've been able to dramatically shorten our release process, which means we can get product to customers much more quickly.
We use Jira Service Desk to track requests between organizations, Bamboo to manage builds and a lot of automated test runs, Bitbucket Server for our source code management, and Jira Software to track features and issues. We work more quickly, we build faster, we can work in different directions at the same time, and we stay on the same page.
The Atlassian products foster DevOps culture by bringing teams together and allowing for natural collaboration.
Atlassian is absolutely mission critical for Jamf software.
So most importantly, Atlassian provides the tools that your software and ops teams want to use. Let's face it, most of the other DevOps tools out there are really hard to implement. They just don't work as well with critical DevOps integrations. They're very heavy. They're very configuration centric. They're very difficult to manage and customize. With Atlassian, you have a tool set that eliminates the walls and silos between your customers, ops, IT, and dev, and puts all of them on the same platform. Unlike other products that segregate support from dev, we can connect these teams. We can connect them with something better than email and voicemail. We allow teams to see each other's boards, comments, issues, queues, customer feedback, ratings, etc. And for those of you wondering, how do you get started with the right tools for DevOps? We actually have the answer. So if you'd like to have some follow-up, and if you're interested in hearing more, please let us know. We can set up a day-long DevOps discussion with your team. Thank you very much.